N-S-E-N.
All right, thank you. So noted. Do you want to make a motion in that regard?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. No business arising. No bylaws. Action items. Item 7.1. Municipal District of Taber Council appointments. Mr. Thibault.
So these council appointments typically happen at the organizational meeting for the councils. I think this one took a little while to get to us from the MD for whatever reason. But if there's any questions around this, Carrie Van Ham can answer for you.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, so I'm prepared to make the motions. Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council recognizes the Municipal District of Taber's appointments to the Joint Economic Development Committee and the Intermunicipal Development Committee, and on the basis of the recommendation of the Municipal District of Taber Council, appoints municipal district representatives to town boards as follows. Town of Taber Recreation Board, Brian Hildebrand and Chantal Klassen as alternate. Town of Taber Arts and Heritage Committee, Tamara Mianega and Meryl Harris as alternate. And Taber Municipal Library Board, Tamara Mianega.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Right, on to item 7.2, information for council. Mr. Thibault.
Okay, I'll speak to these standing items, but if there was any questions, we do have representatives here that can assist me on some other technical or other details for these items. So the first standing item, the first resolution was from a standing item in this information package, talking about looking into the south end of 43rd Street and 50th Avenue, and we're just getting it off of the standing item listing by talking with the developer and know that administration is working on something to come back to council with, but we didn't feel it needed to stay on the standing item list all this time until we got a resolution. Just know that administration is working on it, and that's what this information item is about, is that connection piece from 50th Avenue following through 43rd. I believe this is the ball boat at that one end. Standing item number 2 speaks to the other end of 43rd, which is extending it from where it exists today all the way to 56th, which is the Trout Pond Road, heads out to the Trout Pond Road. So again, we're talking to the same developer, and when we get more solid information back on both of these, they'll be back in front of council with next steps. Standing item number 3, the feasibility of water drainage. So this information has some pictures and goodies with it. So SMRID had been in contact with the landowner. We also had a coffee with council requests that came forward and asked about the area that you see kind of in red little circles here. So that's all overland drainage on 38th. But it's believed that the water table at the back where the irrigation canal is, it's just a ditch, and that being filled with water aggravates the 38th. I can't see if it's street or avenue, but we believe they're linked. So what else we provide in the information package is a letter from SMRID that was outlining what they would be willing to do. There was talks with Mr. Scheer at the town as far as how we could help, and so that star over here, I don't know if that dirt is still there, but we had indicated that we could provide that as fill at no charge for that, and get this piped underground. So the idea was that there would be like a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 split, but one of us isn't willing to pay the 1/3. So this information is just here in front of council. It certainly could be up for discussion, but at this point, we're not sort of the primary driver in looking after this unless council directs administration to be the primary driver to look after this particular information item. So that is all list all the items in the information package, and I'll hand it back over to council to have any discussions around any of them.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two questions actually on the extension of 43rd to 50th. Did you mention it's the developers involved with that extension to join the 50th to 43rd?
We're having discussions with the developer talking about that. There'll be some other administration pieces and a public engagement piece as well, but we're looking for what might be the solution and the cost at this point to do that.
Okay, thank you. And through the mayor to Darren, to be the primary driver, what does that entail with this ditch? What, like you say, shall we take hold? What do we need to do to get something done about that ditch?
Well, if council directs administration to look after a portion of the cost, 2/3 of the cost, all of the cost, go talk to SMRID about what we could solve between us. At this point, the landowner is unwilling to move forward with anything. It does abut right up against the back of our lane. There is some safety involved, so eventually it may erode away the lane. So it will affect the town at some point because it bangs right up against us. But it's not actually on our land, and so council would have to provide administration whatever direction you think.
Yes,
if
actually,
any.
I drove over there last week and I spoke to the gentleman that was at coffee with council there, and I definitely see his concerns. And being that it's a private ditch, then St. Mary's does not own that ditch. Okay, so he's just taking water from the end of the yellow circle there, then and filling that ditch and pumping from the ditch. I understand.
That's my understanding.
Mighty neighborly. If you could do something about that.
All right, Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and it's in regards to this discussion of the, water seepage. I was just wondering, what is the cost of us replacing the sidewalk? Because I believe, if I may, Mr.
Sure.
Mayor, through to Gary Shear, I think we've replaced it twice now, the sidewalk.
We replaced a couple portions of it, so this is another end that's going to be replaced. And it is already in the 2024 capital budget. We already had it all in there, so there's no additional fee. Unless you want to move forward with it this year, then we would bring back a cost. But we would rather deal with the water issues now, and that would be better for the sidewalks, for all our infrastructure.
If I may, Mr.
Sure.
Mayor.
Yep.
So, I was just thinking, like, if we invest 40,000 and then the sidewalks, are, I don't know what the cost of replacing a sidewalk.
You wouldn't be far off for a block.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go a quarter of a block, $10,000, $12,000, stuff like that.
Okay. It just seems like it's a little bit worth our investment if we have to keep on repairing the infrastructure and the sidewalks there.
All right, thank you, Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, same topic, Mr. Mayor, and just a comment, I think that we need to take responsibility, take that over and get something done. We need to be the driving force behind it and get that resolved. I mean, it's impacting us already with the sidewalk issues, and then it's impacting the residents with whatever problems they have, and maybe there's problems they don't even know they have yet till their house starts to tip. But we don't, I tried to find out the history of the ditch, and we don't know, don't know who dug it. Ancient societies perhaps, but, there's nobody you can blame. You can do what you like on your own property, and that gentleman is taking advantage of that, and I don't blame him. Not accepting any financial accountability to fix it, it's not his problem, so I see us as having to drive that and see what we can negotiate with St. Mary's irrigation and get that buttoned up so everybody's happy.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to the same subject, Mr. Scheer would like to ask a question. Do you think that there's a direct correlation between the sidewalk problem and the ditch that's on the south side of the homes there, Mr. Scheer?
Yes, it's wet in that area, only in summertime. When we bring our garbage truck down the lane, you can see it's soft. That's from the water seeping in, and it's been like that for years. We've known that, and if you look at the aerial photos in summertime, you can actually see the curb is wet, but later in the fall, it's not. So the water has to come from somewhere, right? And that's the only source.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If
Sure,
I may
you bet.
follow up. Whose land is that ditch on? Whose land is that?
That is on,
That's Mr. Horvath's land?
yes.
Well, shouldn't the owner take responsibility for the water on his property? Isn't that one of the old laws of water?
Yeah, and you, council might want to suggest we look at this through a legal review and see what your options are.
Councilor Barone.
Councillor Beckering brought up what I was thinking. If you have a dugout on your property that's causing seepage on your neighboring property, you're responsible for that dugout. So this is kind of the same situation. And I think we could investigate different avenues for him to get water delivery. Like, I think that's under wheel moves, if I'm not mistaken. He could put his pump site right where the pipe comes out, run an above ground mainland, and it's not a hard fix really. So, but I think you suggested maybe legal opinion. It might be something before we start offering to spend a whole bunch of money putting a pipeline in there.
All right, thank you. For myself, just on 38th Avenue, I've been over there also having a look, but it looks to me like the sidewalks are really rough shape. I know it hasn't been that long since they've been repaired, but they are rough right now, right? So I think that has to be taken care of sooner than later. I don't think 2024 would be appropriate to wait that long. 2023, I think, would be the preference, considering what kind of shape those are in and the hazard it creates. But more importantly, the ditch issue has been noted by a number of residents over as a safety issue. And that's certainly got to be considered sooner than later. And with young kids playing in that ditch area, so at least 4 feet of water, I think, when it's full supply level. It's an eyesore besides, but also we witnessed some of the sloughing. Mr. Tebow and I, Mr. Egan, witnessed sloughing at that location. So it's already affecting us on our piece. So to me, as has been said, I think we need to be the driving force behind that and make this happen sooner or later. This season, I think, would be most appropriate before anything serious happens. It's bad enough as it is, but we certainly don't need any tragic mishaps as a result of what's going on right there now. And I don't know, SMRID's usually got some pretty strict criteria. They did it to us as far as a trout pond, a similar ditch location requiring that to be buried, the pipe to be buried there. I don't see how different that is, That's something that's happened in the last 5 years here that the town of Taber is required to do as a result. And we were allowed to fill that trout pond the first year through that standard ditch format. And now it's all underground, and we were required to do that. We didn't have an option. So I'm not quite sure where SMRID is on with this, but whoever's responsible for what. But the bottom line is that needs to change, and for a variety of reasons, primarily the safety concern that was brought up by many residents in the area that witness that on a regular basis. So all things considered, it needs to be taken care of yesterday. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know this could be quite contentious, Mr. Mayor. But from my perspective, from my history of water, that you're responsible for the water that's on your land, just like Councilor Bruin just said. And there's no use fixing that sidewalk unless that ditch is either removed or a pipe put in or something. So I'm not in favor of doing that this year, Mr. Mayor, because it's going to be more costly than if we put it into a big package for next year. But I do believe that the homeowner who the ditch belongs to, doesn't even belong to SMRID, he owns the conveyance, he's responsible for that ditch. I mean, I know it's sad if kids, if it's a safety issue, but it's his ditch, it's not our ditch. Why would we get involved in something like that, Mr. Mayor? I don't understand.
Well, yeah, that's a good point, I guess, Councillor Beckering, but I guess there has been some discussion last year. It was offered too that I think both, Mr. Scheer, both to SMRID and or the landowner there, if I'm recollecting correctly with the fill we have over there from our
Yep.
our water reservoir,
So
could be used
St.
for that.
Mary's, the homeowner, the
Right.
property owner and Public Works met
Yeah.
with all together to try and resolve this problem.
Right.
And St. Mary's came up with a solution.
Try to split
We
three-way.
would donate all the clay. There's still clay there. We were gonna have more
Okay.
clay. And St. Mary's were gonna do the work. They actually gave them a pretty good price. The landowner just wouldn't get involved. And St. Mary's said they can't do any more. That's all the board would do, is what they said, that 1/3, and that's it. So it has to be on the landowner, and actually says that in the letter too. Some
All right.
responsibility has to be with them.
Thank you. And the total cost of that, Mr. Tebow, was what?
60,000, I think.
Yeah.
Like 62
For
something,
total
I
cost.
think.
Okay. All right, thank you. Counselor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to Mr. Shear. Is there any way that we could kind of add lipstick to the pig and just kind of make it safe, the sidewalk, in order until we can kind of fix it in a proper way?
We can go over there with some cold mix and even it out a bit, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I would suggest doing that.
Yep.
And
All
I'd be
right.
prepared to make a motion, just to send this back to administration to investigate our options. I don't think we kind of know what our options are right now, whether it's legal or, yeah.
Yeah, okay, sure, that's, accept that motion, absolutely. Counselor Sorensen. I would have thought some of that would have come out through SMRD's recommendation, not, eh? Okay. All right, and Counselor McLean, you also had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's any, like, for the landowner of the ditch, if there's any regulation on the water there? Like, do we know of who's in charge of it? Like, like, is there not any rules or regulations that they have to abide by that we know of with the water? Or is it just their land, like, they have no rules?
There is the Water Act. And the Water Act specifies that you cannot put your water into your neighbor's property. So that's why I'm suggesting the legal review.
Yeah.
That's where that would come into play.
Totally. And I think that makes sense, because then you're just gonna constantly have this issue if that doesn't actually get resolved. And it's, like, I kind of agree that, with Councillor Beckering, when it's not on our land, it's not necessarily something that we should be taking complete control over. It's just like, they need to kind of be held responsible. And I understand the safety and the long-term effects that this is going to have, but I think that that's a good road to kind of investigate. And, kind of like what Councillor Sorensen said, that, try and make the sidewalk safe in the meantime. But we don't want to just keep on replacing a sidewalk when this issue is going to just keep coming and coming. Thanks.
There may be something in the Irrigation Districts Act too. I'm not
Right.
quite certain. I'm not an expert in those two fields, so
Yeah,
that's
no,
why I'm
yeah.
suggesting somebody else to look into that review.
Totally. Okay, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Mr. Tebow, anything to add your end in that regard?
Maybe just for some clarity for administration, if there was going to be a motion made, it might sound like two separate motions, one to look after the sidewalk on a temporary basis, through our maintenance budget program or something like that, and something separate for the ditch, asking administration to, look into it further from a legal perspective. Wherever council wants to go with that, but I think two separate motions would help us.
We do have a current motion on the table through Counselor Sorensen. Mr. Tebow, is that missing anything with either?
Yeah, I think that motion is
So-
missing everything. It would be good if we had a motion that specifically spoke to sidewalk and something specifically that spoke to. So I
Okay.
don't think Councillor Sorensen's
Counselor
motion,
Sorensen, you okay?
it's a
Just-
bit too broad, I think.
Just
for us.
withdrawing that and just start from square one?
Yes.
Withdraw that
I
original
would
motion?
like to withdraw that original motion.
Okay, thank you.
And can I make a new
Sure.
motion? I'll make a motion for administration to investigate the legalities of fixing that back ditch and waterway. So that would be the first motion.
All right, thank you. Counselor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A friendly amendment to Council Sorensen to investigate the responsibility of which party would be responsible for alleviating any danger and or seepage in that particular area.
I'll accept that.
Thank you.
friendly
All
amendment.
right. We do have a friendly amended motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And you were needing something specific for the ditch portion also? Or sorry, the sidewalk? Okay, all right. Somebody want to take a stab at that? Councillor Bruin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make the motion that we direct administration to repair the sidewalk in a temporary manner until we resolve the problem with the ditch.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sheba, let's cover the bases.
That'll do it for me. Yep.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, that's got that covered, Mr. Tebow.
Yep, that covers all three resolutions, unless there was questions on the other ones.
Okay, no other questions arising. All right, no further motions required. Moving on to item 7.3, standing item council requests. Mr. Tebow.
Okay, so a few of these were looked after with the information item. The one at the top from Councillor Beckering around the feasibility of front pickup of the carts. So we have our results in last week. I know that they were forwarded over to the Public Works area for compilation and dissemination and figuring out, what the responses look like. We did get a 10.4% response back. So that's about, I know it doesn't sound like a big number, but from the perspective of what we typically get, it's about 3 times the size of response that we have gotten on other ones. So people were interested in the carts.
So that's 10% of the residents, the actual
10% of
physical residents.
of the residential, yeah. So not commercial folks. This
So-
was just residential. So about 3,300 homes or
Okay.
something like that. So yeah, about 330 responses thereabouts. So we don't have that answer for you today, but it is being collated right now.
All right.
So resolution 415 we talked about, resolution 88 we talked about. We are still in progress for the boat launch that was asked about at our coffee with council meeting. We don't have anything on that just yet. And we exhausted resolution 106 at the bottom. So unless there was anything more, that's all I have.
Okay, that's all that's on paper at the moment. All right, any other new standing item council requests? Councilor Rudd.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I brought this up before, and it's still a problem, so I'm going to ask about the situation with a swale that exists in the backyard of 5505 42nd Avenue on the south side. It's a private property, and maybe Mr. Scheer, you can explain what's going on there with that, please. It's a concrete swale, to drain water, and I don't know if it's critical in that area still for surface drainage or not. If it is, it's not working because it's broken up, and the water pools and it subsequently grows weeds and bugs.
Is that the one in the Sunrise area?
Yes.
Yes. So we actually did a tender and it's been awarded. So that work should be starting in the next month or so.
Okay. What's the resolution to that?
Was to replace all of that swale and get a proper drainage to the other, down to where it actually drains out.
So we're going to replace the
We're
concrete.
we're gonna put a French drain in. Sorry.
French
So the
drain.
French drain will have you'll see some catch basins, little irrigation catch basins in each yard. And the French drain will have a pipe with gravel around it, and that'll take it out. So that way there should be no heaving, anything else like that, and the residents can use their yard fully.
Okay. If I made a motion, I withdraw it,
All right.
but I didn't. So thank you very much. That's I know that's going to make several people very, very happy. Timeline?
We're hoping to have it done by August, let's say that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. Any other new standing item council requests? All right, seeing none. We have no delegations today. Media inquiries.
No.
All right. With that, I'd ask for a motion to move into closed session, please. Councilor Beckering, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Right, 2 motions required. Item 10.1, Councilor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion that council removes the requirement for a functional sanding dump from resolution 168-2020.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make another motion that council directs administration to accept the conditional offer of $113,046 for lots 20-22 at 5531 47th Avenue, Tabor.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10.2, Councilor Rudd.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, the following motion. Council directs administration to draft an MOU with Clare Institute to articulate the nature of the partnership in preparation to enter into a lease agreement for the indicated lands.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further
I
discussion?
made a little change.
All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Motion to close the meeting. Councilor McLean. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good. Thank you.